Welcome to the KZGN News. Today we'll bring you news from a busy Ridgecrest Police Department, recap of yesterday's Republican debate, news from China Lake, today's gas prices, weather, sports, and much more.
From the Rademacher Hills to Bee Mountain and the mighty Sierras, Ridgecrest to Inyokern and China Lake, this is your news for the Indian Wells Valley with the KZGN News Crew.
Hello, I'm Tom Whitney. Thanks for joining us for the news affecting Ridgecrest and the Indian Wells Valley. I want to open with a happy Veterans Day to all current and past members of our country's military services. I too am a U.S. Army veteran. I enlisted in the Army in May of 1969 and served in 1972. To all my brothers and sisters watching, I salute you. And to those currently on active duty, thank you for your service. Oh, and by the way, a salute goes out to the Marine Corps. Yesterday was their 240th anniversary. 240 years of serving our country. Well, the Ridgecrest Police Department was busy yesterday. In our lead story, we get this report from the Ridgecrest Police Department. Yesterday evening, the Ridgecrest Police Department was dispatched to the 1200 block of South McCall Street. There was a report regarding a stabbing. Upon arrival, officers located the victim and he had sustained 2 stab wounds. The unresponsive victim was airlifted to Antelope Valley Hospital due to the severity of his injuries. Officers at the scene of the stabbing were told that Mario Castro had stabbed the victim and located him in a nearby apartment. Castro was detained and the Ridgecrest Police Department detectives responded to the scene to assume the investigation. Castro was later arrested and booked at the Kern County Jail in Bakersfield, where he is being held without bail. And in another story from the Ridgecrest Police Department, we get this story. Yesterday, at approximately 7:40 hours, an alert resident reported seeing an adult black male looking in multiple vehicles and houses before running down the street when confronted by the reporting person. Officers responded to the area and Officer Ballestero spotted the subject matching the description in the 400 block of North Helena Street. Upon seeing police, the suspect, later identified as Lindaris Baker, ran through a yard and into the alleyway between North Helena and North Florence Street. Officers quickly set a perimeter and closed in on the area Baker was last seen. Officer Estrada saw Baker hiding behind a vehicle and a brief foot pursuit occurred, as Baker attempted to avoid arrest. Officer Estrada located Baker hiding inside a shed where he was arrested without further incident. Baker was in possession of 2 backpacks filled with an assortment of items. Included was a light red jacket, which matched the description of a reported prowler in the 200 block of North Warner at about 5:30 a.m. the same day. Baker was arrested and charged with prowling, theft, and resisting arrest. He was transported to Kern County Jail where he was booked. In news from China Lake, we get this story from the Naval Air Weapons Center, Weapons Division. Renee Hatcher from the NOCWD Public Affairs Office provides this report. The Naval Air Warfare Center Weapons Division logged record-setting numbers with notable increases in hiring and work during this last fiscal year. The command saw a 10% increase in new orders that resulted in $1.4 billion worth of work accomplished between October 2014 and September 2015. NOCWD hired about 700 new people. More than 200 of those were new professionals, including engineer and scientist development program participants and interns. Taking attrition into account, there was a net growth of more than 400 employees. We landed some great new projects like Synthetic Guidance Tomahawk and MQHC, and our traditional work grew significantly, said NOCWD Executive Director Scott O'Neill. Our relationship with senior naval leadership also improved significantly, as did their understanding of us and our capabilities. NOCWD hosted several high-level leaders, including Undersecretary of Defense, Acquisition and Technology and Logistics Frank Kendall in May 2014, Assistant Secretary of the Navy for Research, Development, and Acquisition Sean Stackley in August of 2014, and more recently Vice Admiral Mike Shoemaker, the Commander of Naval Air Forces. Stackley described his day at China Lake like walking around in a candy store. I saw a lot of leading-edge work and outside-the-box thinking, he said. We need more of that. Recently, sworn-in Chief of Naval Operations Admiral John Richardson indicated that he wants to strengthen innovation within the Navy by building innovation cells to incubate new ideas. That's NOCWD's sweet spot, O'Neill said. We have truly stepped out of the pack and set a critical and timely example of the value of strong, innovative technical capabilities for the Navy. Admiral Scott Swift, commander of the U.S. Pacific Fleet, was another senior Navy leader who recently visited the command. After his tour in September, he said, NOCWD is the Navy's innovation cell and has been for over 70 years. NOCWD leadership said the command remains focused on delivering quality products and services and routinely surveys its customers to get feedback. Our surveys indicate we have happy customers with all categories improving in their marks, O'Neill said. Life at NOCWD is very good. Great work being done out there at China Lake. In news from Burroughs High School and Gateway Elementary School, we get this report from Tanya Pyle, KZGN-TV field reporter. Students and faculty at Burroughs High School celebrated Spirit Day yesterday, sporting their truest red, white, and blue all day to honor veterans on Veterans Day today, November 11th. However, even though class schedules were canceled today, there were things going on. Tryouts started for athletes interested in playing girls soccer. Also during Veterans Day holiday, Gateway Elementary School chess tournament played on for grades K through 12. Rolling into the second trimester, and in preparation for colder winter weather, the Friends of Rachel organization is working to assure everyone has a warm coat for the winter. Once the local Ridgecrest Santa Claus has commented many times their sadness when a child says that what they want for Christmas is a warm coat for their younger brother or sister. The school is requesting that if you want to please bring gently worn coats, jackets, sweatshirts to your second period class and contribute to the Friends of Rachel. The second period class with the most items donated wins donuts for the entire class. Also, if you know someone in the military deployed outside the United States, by all means provide their name and addresses to Mrs. Rosenberg this week. Friends of Rachel will mail items to troops to anyone who has a Ridgecrest connection. Friends of Rachel is always looking for new members. If you've been thinking of joining and haven't yet, start now. You are welcome at all times. Now stay with us for a recap of the Republican debate last night. Thanks for staying with us. Well, last night we had another Republican presidential debate. I watched both debates. This debate was hosted by Fox Business Network. The first debate had the lower-level candidates. The second debate had the leading candidates. This group was made up of Trump, Carson, Cruz, Rubio, Bush, Fiorina, Kasich, and Paul. Well, it was pleasant to hear real questions from the moderators. There was none of this gotcha attempts in the questions. However, the moderators did challenge the candidates on things they have said or put out on the questions of the subject matter they were asking. That was good and appropriate. That's what we want to hear. The first debate only had 4 candidates. It was a good debate. However, Jindal spent most of the debate attacking the other candidates. Christie was focused on directing the criticisms against the Democrats. More than once, the other candidates told Jindal he was a good governor, yet Jindal wouldn't stop his attacks. Huckabee and Christie had a great debate. Santorum and Jindal were well-spoken and made some good points, but I don't know if any of them did well enough to pull themselves into the top tier. In the second debate, with 8 candidates, all eyes were once again focused on if anyone would attack each other. Trump seemed to provide some more details on his plans. Carson got a chance to comment on recent challenges about his background. Rubio was the polished presenter. Cruz was well-spoken and made many very definitive points. Bush showed more drive and made good points. Fiorina also was well-prepared and spoke well. Kasich and Paul were much more on the attack last night. The debate opened with the first question directed to Trump. The first question asked if they supported the minimum wage of $15 per hour protesters are asking for. Trump explained how a high minimum wage affects hiring and how it affects small business. He did not support the minimum wage hike. Carson and Cruz also did not support it. Most of the other candidates didn't have a chance to weigh in on that question. There was a real difference between the candidates that addressed Trump's plan to deal with illegal aliens. Trump stuck to his line that the ones that are here illegally need to go home and then come back legally. He said that maybe there could be a way to provide a quicker means for them to come into compliance with the law and come back quicker, but they still needed to go home first. But Trump emphasized that we need to first go into the big cities and get these gangs full of illegals out first. Cruz and Carson and Paul agreed to Trump's contention that we are a nation of laws and our laws should not be broken. Bush, Rubio, and Kasich all disagreed and said that there is no way anyone will be shipping all the illegals back home. All three clearly are soft on illegals. Trump threw in that President Eisenhower did it in the 1950s, so we can do it today. Carson was the softest of the eight. There were some questions he did well, but a few times he was vague and had no specifics of real economic issues facing the country. Paul challenged all of them as to who was the most conservative. Rubio and Paul had a pretty heated exchange about military defense spending. Note that it seemed all the candidates except Paul said that we need to rebuild our military. This was a real strong point brought out by Fiorina. She seemed more hawk than any of them. There was a good discussion on how to deal with ISIS and Russian President Putin. Trump is happy with Russia and Syria attacking all the bad people, and he said he has had talks with Putin and is not afraid of him. Trump said that the U.S. does not have to be the world's police force, but the U.S. would not bend or bow to any other foreign government. Bush, Rubio, Kasich, and Fiorina supported setting up no-fly zones over Iraq and Syria. Paul was adamantly against the prospect we would be enforcing a no-fly zone against Russia. Fiorina took it to another level, declaring she would send more troops back into Europe and set up the missile defense shield Poland has been asking for and Obama is too afraid of Putin to put in. Carson offered nothing to this military debate. Paul showed his isolationist position by saying the military needs to be cut back, that we need to bring home almost all troops deployed around the world. Kasich and Bush seemed to get the most disapproval from the audience when answering about if the banks should be rescued again, if that crisis ever happened again. Both Bush and Kasich seemed to support bailing out the banks if necessary. The audience didn't seem to like that position. Trump, Carson, and Paul believed that the banks should be left to fail, that if they know there would be no bailout, they would get more protective of their assets and avoid risky investments. There was also a lot of discussion about reforming the tax code. Reforms focused around either a simplification of the tax code and getting rid of the IRS altogether. The flat tax was proposed in both debates. Rates varied from 10% to 20%. Fiorina said her tax plan was going to be 3 pages long. Again, most proposals that didn't support a plain consumer flat tax supported getting rid of almost all current deductions and loopholes, while lowering all the tax rates. The only deductions some still supported were mortgage deductions and charity deductions. Carson did not support either of those proposals, stating that before the IRS, people still bought homes and made charitable contributions, and they will continue to do so. Trump offered a provision in the code that would encourage companies to bring their money back home, away from overseas banks and investments. No one else seemed to pick up on that important point. But the basis for all the proposed tax cuts emphasized that putting the people's wages back into their hands would provide more spending. All of the tax cutters, Cruz and Paul, seemed to be the most focused on cutting government. He was focused on getting rid of 5 federal departments and sending jurisdiction back to the states. Moving on, Trump, Bush, Fiorina, and Cruz seemed to focus attacks on Hillary Clinton. She was mentioned many times during the debate, which was a lot different than the last debate. At one point, I can't remember which candidate said it, but he warned everyone that all the promises Hillary and the Democrats are making of free this and free that has to be paid for. Hillary was also called out about her deplorable comment that the Republicans are the country's worst enemies. She was asked if she really believes that, how in the world will she ever try and bring this country together? In closing, the debate was a good debate. The only complaint I have is that all the candidates did not get to answer all the questions. But that's the way it is when there's still too many candidates. So now we wait for the new polls to come out and see how their comments resonated with the people. Coming up next, the Democrats will have a debate this Saturday. So we'll watch that and bring you the details on Monday. Now, in KZGN's continuous effort to provide news and information you've asked for, here are today's gas prices for Ridgecrest and some surrounding areas. As of this morning, Ridgecrest is ranging from $2.89 to $3.29, Lancaster from $2.73 to $3.09, the LA Valley area $2.65 to $2.95, and the Bishop area $3.18 to $3.32. We still have 5 stations coming in at the $2.89 figure. It appears prices have stopped any real movement. Tune in Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays for updates. We at KZGN always suggest you shop locally to support our local economy. Remember, when you pay sales tax out of town, you're helping those cities pave their streets instead of here. Weather and sports when we come back. And now here's Lane with the weather.
Thank you, Tom. From the National Weather Service. A strong storm system will bring several types of hazardous weather to the central U.S., and strong winds will impact a large portion of the plains. Heavy snow is forecasted in the Rockies and Western Plains, with blizzard conditions possible in parts of Colorado, Nebraska, and Kansas. In addition, this system could bring severe thunderstorms to the Mississippi Valley. Temperatures across the nation. Carolinas is 65, Georgia is 73, Arkansas is 72, Northern Texas at 63, Arizona is 62, and Los Angeles at 68. And for your local forecast, tonight, clear with a low around 35, west-southwest wind 5 miles per hour. Thursday, sunny with a high near 65, southwest wind 5 miles per hour. Thursday night, mostly clear with a low around 38, north-northwest wind 10 miles per hour. Friday, sunny with a high near 66, north-northwest wind 5 miles per hour. Friday night, clear with a low around 38, east wind 5 to 10 miles per hour. Saturday, sunny with a high near 68, northwest wind 5 miles per hour. Saturday night, mostly clear with a low around 38, with a calm wind. And Sunday, mostly sunny with a high near 68, south-southwest wind 5 to 10 miles per hour. And that is your forecast for the IWV. Now back to Tom.
Thanks, Lane. Let's go to Tom Heck with sports.
And a very pleasant Veterans Day to everyone. Let's take a look at some things coming up this weekend. Start with Burroughs football. They'll be over at Barstow. If Burroughs wins, more than likely they'll get sent down to Riverside to play against one of two teams down there that are playing tomorrow. Burroughs, if they can beat Barstow, would actually probably get a home game based on the way the coin toss has gone, based on the way that you cannot play two home games or two road games in a row. Norta Vista, the team they would play next Friday night, is playing at home Friday, Burroughs away. So very possibly Burroughs could be at home the week from Friday. We'll have to wait and see. Trona won their playoff game last week. They stay alive. They'll get a game this weekend also. All right, let's take a look at the NFL. We never get much of a chance to look at standings. The Patriots 8-0. Boy, Tom Brady just gets better every week. They lead the AFC East. The Jets at 5-3 on the verge of a wild card, possibly. In the North, the Bengals still undefeated at 8-0. They beat the Browns last week. In the poor AFC South, the Colts are 4-5. They have a half-game lead over Houston, who is 3-5. And over in the East, Denver 7 wins and 1 loss. Okay, let's take a look at the NFC. The Giants, boy, the Giants have lost a couple heartbreak games. They're still 5-4. Tom Coughlin doing a good job with that program as usual. In the North, the Vikings and the Packers are tied at 6-2. The Vikings are having a good season. In the South, Carolina 8-0, Atlanta 6-3. Carolina still undefeated. They beat Seattle 2 weeks ago in Seattle. They're for real. And out west, Arizona 6-2. Right now, Seattle 5 wins and 4 losses. Right now, the Seahawks would be on the verge of just maybe a wild card right now. The defending AFC champions. Some interesting college football games this weekend. 25 Memphis 7-1. They finally lost this last weekend to Navy. They take on number 16 Houston, who is 9-0. Number 17 USC goes to Colorado. That could be a struggle. Trojans have found a way to beat teams, though. I'm picking the Colorado Buffs, though, to upset USC Saturday in Boulder. Washington State and UCLA at the Coliseum. very interesting game. Washington State lost to Stanford in the last minute a few weeks ago, and they defeated Arizona State up in Pullman last weekend. All right, 23 Pittsburgh and 22 Duke, both those teams fighting for a good bowl game. And number 2 Ohio State takes on Illinois. 13 TCU, they finally lost their first game of the year, kind of knocked them out of the BCS series, lost to Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State, though, is undefeated. Oklahoma State has moved up in the rankings to number 5. Now, TCU this week will take on 0-9 Kansas, so that should be an easy win for the Horned Frogs. Texas 4-5 against West Virginia, who's number 23 in the country. If West Virginia wins that game, they get a good bowl game. If they don't, they won't. Maryland at number 14, Michigan State. Michigan State losing their first game of the season against Nebraska last week. Boy, Nebraska at the very end got a couple breaks, couple calls, and ended up winning that game. And if Michigan State loses this game, they're going to take themselves out of a good bowl game. And when I mean good bowl game, I mean the big money games. All right, from the Pac-12, Oregon will be at Stanford. Oregon trying to get a good bowl game. They're 6-3 right now. Stanford only 1 loss. They're trying to get in that BCS top 4. Washington and Arizona State both struggling, 4 wins, 5 losses. Believe it or not, Arizona State was the top 10 in the preseason polls. They've dropped a couple of close games. Number 1, Clemson will take on Syracuse. All right, that's some interesting games coming up this weekend in college. We've got Burroughs on Friday night. We've got USC-UCLA on Saturday. And who knows, maybe a year from now we'll be talking about we've got the Raiders home this weekend, or the Rams home this weekend, or maybe the Chargers. In fact, if the Chargers keep losing like they have, they've lost 4 straight. They lost the Monday Night Football game this week to the Bears in San Diego. San Diego may just package them up for a couple 8th graders to be named later, and we'll get the Chargers next year in L.A. Disappointing season. 2-7 are the Chargers. That's your sports for this Veterans Day. Have a pleasant evening. I'm Tom Heck for KZGN.
So that's the news for today. All of us at KZGN-TV know you have a choice in what you watch for your news. We all thank you for choosing KZGN-TV, Ridgecrest's only locally owned community TV station. Now stay tuned for Ridgecrest Talk coming up next.